cannot tell you how happy I am to be here tonight. So many of you wrote and said, "Will you please come to Halifax?" And we wrote back and said, we've tried, but we just can't fit it in. And you wrote back and you said, "Try harder." And I'm so grateful for you for that, for your obstinacy, and for dragging us down here. And I can't tell you how great it is to be here. It's the biggest Vinyl Cafe show we've ever done. Here, you're here too, so let's just say. So there are 35 days now until Christmas. Today is the 6th day of Advent in the Eastern Orthodox churches, the time when Eastern Orthodox Christians are expected to pray and fast and repent and just generally restrain themselves as they prepare for the 12-day fast that is Christmas. But don't forget, the 8 days of Hanukkah will be on us soon enough. And part of the observation of Hanukkah, as well as the nightly lighting of the menorah, is to indulge in oil-based foods. So, in the spirit of the Church of the Vinyl Cafe, we can all fast tonight and have a donut tomorrow. If anyone challenges you, just defend your inconsistency as ecumenical necessity. Whether you are Christian or Jew, Muslim or pagan, whether you wear a parka or a niqab, whatever you wear, you are most welcome in this church. The 6th day of Advent and the 6th day of our tour. We have gathered here in Halifax for a night of song and story. I have 2 brand new David Morley stories for you tonight. Classical favorite, 2 + 1 makes 3, and I promised you I would get you out of here by midnight. So I'm going to get right down to it right now. We got a lot to do. I'm going to start with a story. It's an old favorite story, a story we call Making Presents. And just before I do that, for those of you who are new to the Church of the Vinyl Cafe, you never listened to the radio show or read a book or whatever, you never heard of the thing, you'd be dragged here by somebody who said you might enjoy it. I want to just I'll give you the setup. It's about, Vinyl Cafe is a secondhand record store. It's about a guy by the name of Dave who owns a store. His wife is Morley. His 2 kids are Sam and Steffi. The stories are about this family and their friends and neighbors. People like Kenny Wong, who runs Wong's Scottish Meat Pies, a little joint down the road from Dave's record store. The stories have been going on for 22 years now, and this is one that goes back to the early days when Dave's son Sam was still a little guy, when the family dog Arthur was still around. And it starts one evening at dinner time on a Sunday night in late September. And Dave's wife, Morley, looked around the table at her family and said, "You know, I've been thinking of Christmas." Now, the summer was hardly over. Everybody just looked at her blankly, except for Dave. Dave gasped. When Morley started up again, "I was thinking," she said, "it would be fun this year if we made presents for each other." This was met with dead silence. 2 nights later, Morley wrote everyone's name onto a piece of paper. She tore the paper up, she folded up the little pieces, and she put them into one of her pots. Passed the pot around the table. She said, "No one say who they get." "What if you get yourself?" said Sam. Well, no one got themselves. And no one said who they got. In fact, no one seemed particularly interested in who got who. Morley had hoped that everyone would be excited, but no one was excited, not at all. Soon enough, it was October, and everyone was busy, and only Morley, who was the busiest of all, was thinking about Christmas. The night they had pulled the names out of the pot, Morley had waited for the last piece of paper, and when she unfolded it, she read her son's name. She had thought long and hard about what she might get a 10-year-old boy for Christmas. She wanted to make her son something meaningful. Dave was no help. Well, there's something about boys you need to understand, he said. They aren't meaningful. The idea of building a chair for Sam came to Morley right out of the blue. She saw a brochure advertising a night course at a local high school, 10 Monday nights, $200, all material included. She enrolled in the course and promptly missed 2 of the first 3 classes. But she didn't miss any more after that. She got them all, and she applied herself diligently, or as diligently as she could, and although every step was a struggle, each screw, each nail, she just loved what she was doing because she loved imagining her boy as a grown man, sitting in the chair that she had made him reading. Made it all worthwhile. Only thing that spoiled it was that no one else in her family seemed to have embraced the holiday project. And then one morning, Sam looked up at her from the other side of the kitchen. He was sitting at the breakfast table finishing his cereal. They were alone, and he said, "I want to learn how to knit." And sometimes the biggest challenges of motherhood, most often the biggest challenges of motherhood, as any mother will tell you, are the ones you can never plan for. Morley gave Sam his first knitting lesson that night in his bedroom. "Shut the door," he said. Now, she soon found out that teaching a 10-year-old boy to knit was about as easy as building a chair. She didn't have the words for it. She sat him down on his bed, and she sat beside him, and they both held a set of knitting needles out in front of them as if they were about to fly a plane, and she said, "Okay, you just do what I do." After an hour or so, he more or less had it. "What is it you want to knit?" asked Morley. "A coat." Sam had drawn Stephanie's name. By the beginning of November, Sam was good enough to sit in front of the television and knit while he watched cartoons. Next Saturday, he was invited to his pal Jeremy's house for sleepover. He wanted to know what he should take his knitting in. Morley was afraid if he took his knitting, he'd get teased, but she packed it up nevertheless, and off he headed with his toothbrush and his sleeping bag and his bag of wool. 9 o'clock, Jeremy's mother phoned. This is what Morley was afraid of. She said, "You aren't going to believe this. You know what they're doing? They're downstairs watching Lethal Weapon 3, and they're knitting." Suddenly everyone wanted to knit. Next weekend there was a hockey tournament, and Dave drove Sam and Jeremy and 2 other boys. They all sat in the back of the car, he said. They were talking about the hockey and the game and how they were going to cream the other teams, the kind of stuff you'd expect from a backseat of little boys, until one of them said, "Oh damn, I dropped a stitch." Morley was worried about Sam. She thought he was getting compulsive about the knitting. He'd disappear into his room and sit on the edge of the bed, and he would knit for hours. He kept unraveling everything he did. "It's fun to destroy it," he said. It didn't seem healthy. That wasn't the worst. Saturday afternoon, when Dave was driving to the hockey game, Steffi's best friend, Becky, had shown up at the front door. "Is Stephanie home?" she asked. She was holding a package wrapped in brown paper. "No," said Morley, "Steffi's out." Becky held the package up, said, "Tell her her present is ready. Tell her she owes me $15. Morley was fairly certain that Stephanie had pulled Dave's name out of the pot on that night in October. That placed Morley in a terrible position. She wanted to talk to Dave about what was going on, but she didn't want to hurt him. Anyway, as far as Morley could tell, Dave hadn't begun anything himself. Soon enough, it was only a week before Christmas, and it seemed as if her entire project was turning into a fiasco. She brought Sam's chair home 2 days later. "It's pathetic," she said, as she and Dave carried it down to the basement. "That's not pathetic," said Dave. It looks like it was made with, it looks like it was made with a lot of love. Looks like it was made by a small animal with no opposable thumbs," said Morley. Chair still hadn't been covered. There's a box of upholstery on the floor beside it. Dave said, "Can I make a suggestion?" Morley didn't say anything, but she didn't walk away, so he kept going. He said, "Forget about the foam padding. Forget about the upholstery. Don't put fabric on it. Put wheels on it. What you have here isn't a chair without covering. What you have here is a go-kart without wheels. Put wheels on that thing and you will have one very happy little boy on Christmas morning." Next night after supper, Sam called Morley into his room and said, "I've only got 2 days left." "2 days is not a lot of time," said Morley. "But it should be enough for a pro like you to knit a scarf." "I'm knitting a coat, not a scarf," said Sam. "Oh," said Morley, "I thought you were knitting a scarf. Let me start it for you." And once again she began a row of stitches, and once again she handed it to her son, and then she stood up and she said, "I got to go do the dishes." On Christmas Eve, after Sam and Steffi were in bed and the last present was wrapped and under the tree, Morley called Dave down to the basement and asked him to help her carry the chair upstairs. She had taken the wheels off Sam's old wagon and attached them to the bottom of the chair. Dave climbed into it and smiled. She had left the wagon handle in place, which rested between his legs like a joystick. He looked up at Morley. He said, "He's going to love this." They could see light spilling out from under Sam's door when they went upstairs. And they could hear the sound of his knitting needles click-clacking together. "He's still at it," said he. "What should we do?" It was almost 1 a.m. "We should go to bed," said Dave. "His door is shut. He wants to do this himself." "He was working on a scarf," said Morley, as she prepared their bed. "But this afternoon it changed into a headband." Just wasn't going to be big enough for a scarf. When I suggested headband, you know what the little bugger said? He said, "But isn't her head the fattest part of her?" Morley was sitting on the edge of their bed. She turned around and said, "You know, Steffi drew your name. And there's something you should know about her present." "No," said Dave, "don't tell me anything. I want to be surprised." Morley stood up and walked toward the bedroom window. "Don't worry," said Dave, "it will be fine." And it was. Steffi, it turned out, had not paid Becky to make her father's present. Steffi had written to her grandmother in Cape Breton, asked her to ship a photo of Dave and his father to Becky's house, COD. It was a photo that had amazed Stephanie the very moment she saw it, which had been 2 summers previous when she had gone to Big Narrows for a week by herself. The picture was taken when Dave was 5 years old, and in it he is standing on the piano bench in the parlor made him the same height as his father's bass fiddle, which they are both holding between them, and laughing, both of them. Her grandfather standing by her father, his head moving backwards and to the side, her father, who's just a little boy, starting to fold over at the waist with his hand moving towards his mouth, the way her brother's does in moments of hilarity. Photo had haunted her for 2 years. The first time she saw it, she thought the little boy was her brother and the man standing beside the fiddle was her dad. Photo had been wrapped and hidden in her cupboard 2 weeks before Christmas, and 3 times she had opened it up so she could look at it. 3 times she had to wrap it up again. But Morley didn't know any of this as she climbed into bed that Christmas Eve. As she fell asleep, she was still worried about the morning, about Stephanie, about the go-kart. She slept for a few restless hours, and then she woke up. And when she couldn't get back to sleep, she decided to make herself a cup of tea. She was almost out of the bedroom before she noticed the red ribbon tied around her wrist. Long piece of ribbon which ran to the floor into a red pile. She was still dopey with sleep, so she started to gather the ribbon up, and it was only as she did that that she realized it didn't end in the pile at her feet, but it continued across the room and out the door and toward the stairs. And so she followed it. Out the door and down the stairs and past the tree and into the kitchen. By the time she got to the back door, she had gathered an armful of ribbon, and she was smiling. Dave and Morley have a pear tree in their backyard, back in the corner. Morley followed the trail of the ribbon out the back door and across the yard right to the pear tree. At the end of the ribbon, the end not tied to her wrist, led to a switch fastened on the base of the tree. And there she found a note. Merry Christmas. I love you. And I chose you too. Dave. Morley flicked the switch, and the most amazing thing happened. The pear tree slowly and gracefully came to life. Little lights began to snap on in the branches above her head, and then, as if the tree had been animated by Walt Disney himself, the lights spread along the branches until the entire tree was glowing a dark red crimson. Crimson like a dark glass of wine. A red light that cast a magic red glow over the entire backyard. So Dave woke up at 3 a.m. and he sensed that he was alone in bed. He reached out his arm for his wife and he didn't find her, and so he got up and he called her name, and then he walked to the back bedroom and he looked out the back window, and there was Morley sitting at the picnic table. She was wearing his work boots, the laces undone, and his winter coat over her pajamas, and on her head a toque that belonged to Sam. She was cradling a mug of tea between her hands. From the perspective of the upstairs window, she looked to be about 12 years old. It had started to snow. Big, fat flakes of snow were coming lazily out of the sky. Morley was sitting, staring at the snow as it floated out of the darkness and into the circle of the red light. Dave pushed the bedroom window open and said, Merry Christmas. And Morley bent down and made a snowball, glowing as she stood in the red light of the tree, her hair wet and sticking to her forehead, working not so quickly that Dave didn't have time to gather a handful of snow off the window ledge himself. The two of them threw their snowballs at almost the same moment, and they both laughed in wonder when they collided in midair, spraying snow like a shower of icy fireworks through the silence of the night. Thanks. decorations, festive cards and gift givings are all traditions that make up the season which we are about to begin. But nothing embodies the spirit of Christmas more than the impulse to sing. We gather in this dark time of the year and we sing. I'm just delighted to introduce you to the people who are going to lead us in song tonight. They're just back from a world tour opening for the British folk rocker Passenger. From St. John's, Newfoundland, will you please welcome The Ones? Yeah. What do you guys introduce? Which one are you going to do? You can do.
This is a song called "I Won't Do Christmas Without You."
Oh,
do you want to know what it's about?
Okay. The song.
Well, it's a song about a girl who loves her family, and she also loves a boy, and this boy loves his family, and it's Christmas, and they spend time apart. And it's been 8 years that they've done this, and this year she's like, no, I want you here, and that's it. That's what this song's about.
It's not autobiographical or anything.
Yes, it is.
Put your gun so close to your chest there.
Awkward. This is also a little bit of a love letter to the city of St. John's. So if you're from there, or you've been there,
Or you've heard
or you're
of
just
it.
aware of it, that it's a place. And you just may get some of the references here, but they might go by a little quick.
And don't worry if it sounds like a bit of a downer. It's not. It's super upbeat. It's got a nice beat, actually. You can dance to it.
Feel free.
I won't do Christmas without you. There ain't no way, no how. The gifts I left under the tree are waiting for you now. We'll drive to church and forest and pick our favorite tree. You can put it up and leave the trimming bark to me. We'll slide and ski in Pippin Park. But if there isn't any snow, I suppose we'll have to walk. There's a star on Cabot Tower and lights on Water Street. Even Jane Green has an ornamental ring. Although it may be crooked, there's a tree in City Hall. There's another at the village and Santa's at the mall. All the mall, I want to Christmas without you. There ain't no way, no how. The gifts I alone.
The Once, from the Once is Christmas. So the Nova Scotia Vacuum Cleaner Company was born in the backyard shed of Elmer Tress in Dave's hometown of Big Narrows, Cape Breton, right here in Nova Scotia. And Elmer was the cousin of the coal magnate John W. Tress. And I'll leave it to others to tease out what passive-aggressive spasm led Elmer to suck coal dust out of Cape Breton parlors, while the rest of his family got rich digging the dirty black devil out of the ground. I don't know what got him going, but I do know that his first vacuum cleaner was an enormous horse-drawn contraption, driven by coal, looked like a fire wagon. Required 3 people to operate. You can still find old-timers in Big Narrows who will tell you that they remember the Tress's 3 sons in their white shirts and their plaid breeks running enormous hoses across the sidewalks and through the windows of Big Narrows' best homes. If you get them going, they'll tell you that smoke-belching monstrosity left behind more dirt than it removed. It was Tress's poor wife, Eleanor, who convinced Elmer to give up on the Weezer, which is what she called it. The story goes that it was Eleanor who told him that selling cleaning services would never be as lucrative as selling cleaning devices. Tress was an inventor. He really wasn't interested in selling anything anyway, but he was intrigued by the idea of miniaturizing his vacuum wagon. He called his first attempt the dust bilge. It was essentially a pump on wheels, and it required 2 people to operate, as Elmer envisioned it, a husband and wife. The woman directing the brush, while the husband followed on the pump. Elmer made 12 bilges in time for Christmas, 1916. According to Eleanor's records, they were all snapped up. The bilge came to a sorry and predictable end that Easter. The bewildered priest called on Eleanor. He was distraught over the state of all 12 of those marriages. Elmer didn't discourage easily. There were numerous prototypes over the decades, most famously the Eel, a water-filtered vacuum that humped its way around the house like a possessed bagpipe, which, due to a gasket flaw that Elmer never managed to correct, appeared to stop and take a leak every few minutes. And then came June 1939. And Elmer emerged from his backyard shed with the prototype of what would become his masterpiece. A machine that Nova Scotians who were lucky enough to own one in the day still speak of in holy tones, the dirt dingy. The dingy was small and light and twice as powerful as any vacuum you could order from the Eaton's catalog. As it is with all things, its strength also proved to be its weakness. In order to manage the power of the suction, Tress had to make the dinghy's cloth dust bag seal tight to the machine. Otherwise, it kept flying off. The problem was, when it was full, the dust bag was next to impossible to empty. Some owners resorted to using other vacuum cleaners to suck the dirt out of the bag. People complained it took them as long to get the dirt out of the bag as it did to get it in there. But the devoted, and there were many disciples in Big Narrows, they were all happy to tap and jiggle the bag until there was at least enough room in there to use it again. Tress probably had the biggest funeral in the history of Big Narrows. He was buried in the little cemetery out past Macaulay's farm. Certainly has the largest gravestone. He has a concrete steeple with a ball on the top, and 3 words without apparent irony inscribed on all 4 sides of the steeple for all to read: dust to dust. Tress was still revered when Dave was a boy. Dave still remembers the class trip to Tress's backyard workshop, his grade 5 project on suction, and the fading billboard out by the highway. Big Narrows, it read, a town that really sucks. No one knows for sure how many dirt dinghies Tress produced. Certainly fewer than 100. So for those who loved them, they became a treasured possession, and then a precious heirloom. Dave got his from his Aunt Elizabeth. It arrived out of the blue some 20 years ago. It came on an autumn afternoon, and it came in the original maple crate. Dave, home alone at lunch, as was his wont in those days, had it unpacked and plugged in almost immediately. As soon as he stepped on the starter, the dinghy emitted a familiar and comforting, ear-piercing wail. It sounded like a small animal was being eaten alive in some dark jungle. Dave stepped back and grinned. There was a time when the entire town used to sound like that. Then he looked down. The brush head had seized the little area rug by the kitchen table, and it looked as if it was going to suck it right up the hose. Dave turned off the vacuum and tugged the rug free. This vacuum clearly had astonishing possibilities. The dinghy could probably suck up dirt buried deep in the cracks of the floorboards of his house. Dirt so deep that it might have come off the boots of that World War I soldier who had once lived there. And so began one of the most difficult periods of Dave and Morley's marriage. The dinghy screamed like a banshee, and while it screamed, Dave followed it around as happily as a banshee's mother. Part of the pleasure was aesthetic. It was like owning his very own Zamboni. There was a light gray carpet downstairs that he could make as smooth as a newly flooded rink. But there was something else at play. The vacuum was encouraging his deepest, darkest anxieties. He wasn't only sucking dust and smoothing carpets. He was waging a war. He was battling armies of microscopic invaders, dust mites and retroviruses, microbes and germs that could lay waste his entire family. Armed with a 50-year-old vacuum cleaner, he was sinking into a hypochondriacal mania. Before long, he was vacuuming every day. And before long, that raised a troubling question. When does a hobby become an obsession? Or more to the point, when does an obsession become an illness? When your wife says so. That's when. You're telling me I can't vacuum anymore, said Dave. He was standing in the living room beside the dirt dinghy. He was wearing rubber gloves and a white lab coat. Do you have any idea, he said, how many women would find it desirable to have their husband vacuuming? He pulled a paper face mask up over his chin. He adjusted the orange ski goggles he had found in the cupboard. What am I, said Dave, 10 years old? He waited for a day until he had calmed down. He mulled over what she had said, and he consulted his friend Kenny Wong at lunchtime, and then he decided he would deal with her edict like a man. He began to vacuum in secret. Vacuuming became his secret pleasure. It only took Morley a week to figure out what was going on. There were plenty of telltale signs. She'd come home from work and the carpet would be clean and smooth, or she would smell the pipe tobacco odor of vacuum exhaust. She thought about it and she decided that she would allow Dave his little secret. But she decided she would monitor him. And so she left things on the floor. Paper clips, pennies. If it got out of hand, she would step in. And so, a spring afternoon, a year after his vacuuming privileges had been revoked, Dave is home alone, standing in the living room, staring at the guinea pig and her filthy cage. It happened so fast, it's hard to describe. Dave heard the soft whoop of her hitting the outside of the hot bag. Like a tennis ball hitting a brick wall. He switched off the dingy and horn. Remarkably, the pig seemed to have survived. He had the bag laid out on the kitchen table. You could see her moving around in there. But he couldn't get her out no matter how hard he tried. He pushed and he pulled, he pried and he shook. He tried to lure her out with a carrot. When Morley came home, he was sitting there with a pig squirming around in his lap, picking lint off it. He looked as if he'd been crying. The vacuum bag was on the table. He only said one word: cesarean. That weekend, Morley bought a new vacuum. She told Dave he wasn't allowed to touch it. He promised. My vacuuming days are over, said Dave. Besides, with a bag cut, what could he do? He wrapped up the dinghy's electric cord, he put the machine back in its maple case, and he carried the entire thing down to the basement. 10 years passed. Was it 10 years? I don't know, time passed. Maybe more. The world changed. One night, Dave is fooling around on the computer and he stumbled on someone selling old dust dinghy parts. They had a dust bag. It arrived in a little cardboard box. Next day, he slunk home at lunch when he knew the house would be empty. He began in the living room. The moment he turned on the machine and heard that ear-splitting whine, he felt the old bliss settle upon him. Sounded as if Mike Duffy had just sat on Stephen Harper. You know what that would sound like. Back and forth he went. Up and then down. It was surprising how fast it came back. The comforting, energizing push and pull. His arms extending and flexing like a varsity rower. Like an athlete returning to his beloved sport. It was while he was working around the yellow blanket box at the foot of their bed that he was startled by the unmistakable vibration of metal being sucked up that long vacuum handle. He stopped, turned the dinghy off, looked down, and there on the blanket box lay one of his wife's pearl study rings. Clearly, he had just sucked up the other. He looked at his watch. It was 4:30. Good grief, how did it get so late? Took the bag downstairs, and once again he sat down at the kitchen table. This time he got out a pair of kitchen tongs and he worked them through the finicky seal. He wrestled out a dense clump of matted dirt. He took a fork and a knife and he slowly began pulling them apart. He found a perplexing volume of weird-looking gray dust. A twist tie, a safety pin, a few paper clips, a clump of feathers. Feathers, wondered Dave? A Cheerio. A Cheerio? They hadn't had Cheerios in the house for years. Maybe the chicken had brought the Cheerio in. Some popcorn kernels, a button, a dime, and a nickel, a handful of pennies, a screw, what looked like a piece of dehydrated carrot, but no earring. He was sure it was in there. He had heard it go in, the rattle of it. He leaned back and took a deep breath. And that is when Morley pulled into the driveway. She was home early. Now, people often report that in a time of crisis, things feel as if they reveal themselves in slow motion. In slow motion, Dave rolled up the vacuum bag and the newspaper, pulled open the kitchen cupboard and stuffed his little pile behind the row of cereal boxes. Closed the cupboard and waved his hands in the air, trying to disperse the hovering cloud of dust. Ran upstairs, rammed the vacuum cleaner into the closet, shut the closet door, and that's when Morley called him. And she didn't call out, "I'm home!" Not, "Anyone here?" Not even, "Hello!" Just 4 fateful words. "You have been vacuuming." Dave looked down at his pants. He was covered in lint, feathers, and dust. And so he did what any mature man would do under the circumstances. He locked himself in the bathroom. Morley came upstairs and sat by the bathroom door. "You're going to have to come out sometime," she said. He was pulling feathers off his pants and flushing them down the toilet. He knew she knew. She knew he knew. But he just couldn't admit to what he had done. Had to do with pride, and pride, as we all know, cometh just before the fall. He came home early the next day and extracted another lump from the dust bag. Once again, he came up empty. And once again, with the exquisite timing that makes you believe the universe is a malevolent trickster, Morley pulled into the driveway early. This time, he thrust the vacuum bag under the newspaper wrapped pack of dirt under the couch. Later that night, when Morley was sound asleep, breathing rhythmically, he lifted the covers, eased out of the bed, and padded downstairs. He pulled out the packet of dirt from under the couch. He was standing there in the middle of the living room, looking around. "Dave? Was there no peace?" It was the middle of the night. The dust bag was still under the couch. He looked around desperately. "Coming," he said. But she was too. She was coming down the stairs. He stuffed the newspaper-wrapped packet of dirt into the umbrella stand. Morley was unusually rushed the next morning. You look fantastic," said Dave. And she did, all dressed up for a press conference. Dave was hovering in the hallway. He was waiting for her to leave so he could reclaim the dust packet from the umbrella stand. Morley had her hand on the door, and for some weird reason, time was slowing down again. Because it was raining, that's why. And Morley was now on the front porch, opening her blue umbrella. He didn't say anything. He just stood there peering through the front door window. So he was watching when the folded package of newspaper exploded on her head. An explosion of fine gray dust, feathers, and pieces of dehydrated carrot. Though not the dime, the nickels, or the handful of pennies. Dave had carefully plucked them out of the bag one by one, wondering as he did whether a man could make a living going through discarded vacuum bags at a dump site. The thought returned as he watched Morley turn slowly to face the door, blinking through the layer of dust that clung to her face. I just might have a chance to find that out, he thought. The last thing he noticed before she came back in was the sheen from both her pearl earrings, glinting through the grayness. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Halifax, I love you.
I'll have a blue Christmas without you. I'd be so blue just thinking about you. Decorations of red on a green Christmas tree won't be the same, dear, when you're not here with me. And when those blue snowflakes start falling, that's when those blue memories start calling. You'll be doing alright with your Christmas so white, but I have a blue, 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 blue Christmas. And when those blue snowflakes start falling, that's when those blue memories start calling. You'll be doing alright with your Christmas so white, but I have a blue, 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 blue Christmas. You'll be doing alright with your Christmas so white, but I have a blue, 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 blue Christmas.
They're pretty great. The Blunts. I'm just going to take a moment. These guys are pretty great too, and I thought I should introduce them. Sometimes it's fun to let your attention drift to the other players in the band, you know, to just listen while a song is going on to the bass player for a while and see what he's doing, and the pianist, when the, just picking out different instruments and focusing on them is a fun way to listen to a song. Playing bass tonight, the left-hand side of the stage, one of the best bass players in the country, so he's certainly one worth listening to and picking out. He's played with some of the greatest singer-songwriters that this country has produced over the last, I don't know, how many?
A long time.
He's played with, well, he's played with Bruce Coburn, with Randy Bachman, Murray McLaughlin, Gordy Lightfoot, and the great Ron Hines. It's been a so yeah, the piano, and also a fantastic musician, the musical director of the Vinyl Cafe Orchestra. He is, as well as being a great player, he is a producer, a record producer, he's a performer, he's a writer, he's written for artists like Dan Hill and Celine Dion, and he's recorded with people like Ian, well, with Ron as well, but Ian Tyson, Rita Coolidge, Colin Wilkinson, and Olivia Newton-John. That's John Shear. John is also a recording artist in his own right. He has just released his 8th CD. Am I right, 8? Just this week or last week. And the CDs are fantastic. They're, I have 7 of the 8. I haven't seen my new one yet, but I have faith that I will eventually. They're just, I can't tell you how lovely they are. They're just the piano solos and just very thoughtful records. And I love your records. Yeah. So listen, that leaves, the only thing to do is to meet you guys, and Lucas, if you could bring up the house lights so we could do that properly. I thanked you at the beginning of the show for coming, for dragging us here. Not that we have to be dragged to Halifax, but for making us. We usually come to the Cullen and in the springtime, but it's really we're going to be. It's our first Christmas show in Halifax, yeah, and it won't be our last. That's for sure. It's a deal. It is your fault, but we'll be here. And it's going to be, doesn't it feel fun? Yeah, it might turn into our favorite Christmas show, so you're doing a wonderful job. You know, the best shows have to do not with what we do. The best shows have to do what you do and how, because it's not just, because the fact is we could do the show without you. We could get through it in about half the time. But the difference is your contribution, and it's not your presence, it's your participation, and you have been, are being so wonderful. It's just a special feeling tonight. It just, doesn't it feel, it sort of feels like we're in a living room somewhere, and it feels good. So by way of thanking you, I'm going to invoke a time-honored Vinyl Cafe tradition. And if I'm going to do this and do it in the traditional way, I'm going to give away a little bit of stuff that we got here to give away, presents, as a token of our appreciation for your presence, but your participation. If I'm going to do it, I need something to happen here. I need a little volunteer to join me on stage. Johnny, how old tonight?
I don't know, 10, 11, 12.
Somewhere in that range, around
13.
10 years old, but... Yeah. What?
I think there's a young lady coming up.
Okay, right here. Come on up. This young
Oh, she's gonna
Come
get
on
up
over
there.
there, Jess. Give me Jess Milton. And, yeah. again. This is Layla, and she's 10 years old. And Layla goes to Halifax Grammar School, and you're 10 years old. I think it's grade 5. Excellent. And you're all dressed up for the show? The leather pants and the dress. Now, was that your choice, or did your mom make you? Your choice? Excellent. And I'm so glad. And what do you call that? A necklace or what? What's that called? Necklace with a heart in it. Yeah, excellent. Are you a fan of the show? Do you listen to Vinyl Cafe? You do? Radio, podcast? Radio. Saturday morning, Sunday? Saturday. Excellent. What's your favorite story? No, duck. Yeah. Duck swallows the wedding ring, and it's right here in Halifax, right? And takes him to the Lord Nelson Hotel and waits for the duck to poop the ring out. That's a good one. Another one? You have another one? Or that's your best one? Yeah. So, well, that's a good one. It's one of my favorites, actually. So, listen, have you ever been to a show before? Yes. Yeah. And do you like? How's this one compare? How's it going? It's really good. Yeah, I thought so too. Yeah. So listen, Layla, you're going to help me give stuff away now, and you're going to hold it up for everyone to see so they can know what it is. And we're going to start with the Onces album, and you're going to do this. How's she going to do this? You're going to sort of hold it up like
Kind of like
Vanna White. Yeah, like
Price is Right.
Like you're on TV. That's right. I got it. That's right. But you know what's special? Do you know how to do something? If you get some moves you can bust out? Yeah, that's right. The Once, it's called. Not yet, don't get ahead of yourself. This is a Christmas album by the Once. Now's a move. Bust out a move with that. There, oh my goodness! What's written? You got something written on your wrist. There's a word there. What's it say? Oh. It says.
I don't know. It's F-L-O-O.
F-L-O-O, flu. Yeah. Does it mean something? No, just. Did you write it there? Oh, it's the stamp from the ticket. Oh. Don't ever wash it. You know what it actually means? You're on the floor. And that means, you know, you could come any night you wanted here to the show. Hey, you just flash that, and they'll let you on the floor. Any show you want to go. Yeah. Just don't wash it off. Just come at halftime after they've taken the tickets. And you just come out the window, tell your parents you're going to bed, sneak out, come on, show them the stand. You can see, like, anybody you want. Okay, the next album here, this is John's new album. It's called The Piano Collection. This is the new one. 2000, this is the new one, right? 2001, 2015, and it's like, is this like a best of? Yeah, it's the best things he's ever done. Like, you either own the first 7 albums, or you wait for the 8th, and then you got them all. There you go. And now we have the Vinyl Cafe things. We got a brand new Vinyl Cafe CD. It's called Seasons, and there's 4 CDs here: spring, summer, autumn, winter. And there's stories for each season. Like in the spring, there's Dave Makes Maple Syrup, and then there's the summer, Dave and the Mouse. Yeah, and the autumn, Halloween and fireworks and Christmas at Tommy's, and there's all sorts of, anyway, and that's the Vinyl Cafe. When you show that, I want a new move though this time, okay? I want you to do something else, something I haven't seen yet. And the Vinyl Cafe turns the page, the new book, it's got like Dave goes to yoga camp, and I didn't see it, let me see it? The move. Excellent, show them over there too. Okay, let's give away stuff. You are 10 years old, so we're going to give away 2 prizes. One to the youngest, one to the oldest. You're 10. Let's see if anyone's younger than you, okay? You're 10. Anybody younger than 10? How old are you, son? You're 7. That's younger than 10. You're in the first place right now. Anybody younger than 7? 4 months. And talking amazingly well. 4 months old. Do you listen to the show often? What's my 4-month-old, what's her name or his name? Christopher, 4 months. Anybody who can speak for themselves younger than 5? Well, your hand, yeah, I've already spoken to you, right? What? He's 7. He's 7. Okay, he's 7. Anybody younger than 7 who can speak for themselves? How old? 6. 5? 4? Now I'm in trouble.
17.
Well, I tell you what, I'm going to give, 4 months old, we're going to give the award to the 4-month-old Christopher, wherever you are. Hold him up. Where's Christopher? Let's play Pass the Baby. There it goes. Just pass the baby along the line, and when the music stops, whoever holding him has to change the diaper. Okay, Christopher, we'll give you a prize. I tell you what, will you meet Christopher? There's a table somewhere, right, Jess? Somewhere there's a table where they're selling stuff, and you will meet Christopher there. Check his ID, and give him John's album. Because if you listen to John's album, you play John's album every night while he's asleep, John, what'll happen?
His IQ probably double.
Double. Okay, and now something the oldest person. How old do you think the oldest one is? We got 4 months. Take a look at them. How old do you think? In fact, you could pick the oldest one out if you wanted.
Oh, oldest person. Oh, yeah.
No reply. What do you think? How about, guess the age. You don't have to say which one it is. Just, you don't have to be right. You just have to guess how old you think. Whoa, that's pretty old. Can we start a little younger? Because maybe it's not, she's saying 94. Let's start in the 70s. By the time they hit 70, they start dropping like flies. Let's start at 70. And we'll work from there, and we'll see if we got, for a prize, is there anybody 70 tonight? Just put it out. Over there, I see 70 waving your hands. I see you, see over here. How old right here? How old are you? 70 on the nose. Anybody older than 70? I got 70 here. 70 over there, how old? 88, my goodness. Whoa. 88 over here. Give me a moment with my 88-year-old. 88, what's your name? So close to a prize, and then... At least you died happy. Was that inappropriate? It was just sort of on the edge, right? Yeah, that's what I thought too. Maybe I misheard. Maybe there wasn't 88 at all. Maybe 98. 90 on the nose. Who's 90? Over here. And what's your name? 90 years old. Gert. Excellent. Anybody older than Gert? I got 90. Shall we declare her the winner? Whoa, hold on. How old over here? How old? 96. Whoa! If we had started at 94, we would have saved a lot of time. That's gotta suck, Dirk. You think you got the prize all wrapped up? And then some 98-year-old codger comes and rips it right out of your hands. Is that inappropriate? You know what? I tell you what I'm going to do. We're going to send. You're going to give. What's your name? 96. K, 96 years old. I'm going to do two things. You're going to give Kay the Onces album, okay? And Gert, we're going to give you my album, my CDs here. And the two of you, on an honor of tonight, this being such a night of nights, Gert and Kay, and on account of we're going to return every year, I'm going to give you both lifetime passes to the Vinyl Cafe. You Yeah, you should give them to them now, but hold on. So, that goes to the baby, right? And that goes to the Kurt, Dirt, and Kay. And this is for you, for doing such a good job. Hey, Leila, you did a great job. Yeah. Now she's giving out the prizes. We're going to take a short break, everybody. And I want to suggest that you take your break at the same time. It just works well that way. And we'll meet back here. How long, John? Oh, we don't care. Whatever you want. You just hold your floor passes up in the air. When there's enough of you holding them up, I'll be there for you. We got a new story and a whole bunch of other stuff in the second half. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Give your head a shake. Thank you. That's why I love you too. That's why I'm here. So there are a lot of songs played at this time of the year, and some of them, after a while, you just wish you didn't have to hear again. But there's one song, a seasonal song this time of year that I just love, and I never hear enough of. And when Jess and I were you there? Come on out and meet everybody. Jess Milton. I should introduce Jess. Producer of the show. We first met these guys in, it was in Newfoundland, in Corner Brook. Yeah, Corner Brook. And Jess and I were listening to them in the wings and said, wow, we have to have them on the Christmas show. And I said, and then we started talking about it and all, and I asked, maybe they could do a song. So I asked them if they could do it, and they said they loved the song too. So this is my one musical request of the evening, which I'm just very excited about. And I just want to, it's a lovely, boisterous kind of song, and you get the feeling that you're might be in someone's kitchen someone playing on an out-of-tune piano, and somebody's going to spill a drink or something. It's all it's a rambunctious song. We rehearsed, and I almost got to hear it like that, because we rehearsed the show. The first rehearsals are always over at John Shear's house, and John has a country kitchen. Not a very big room, but it's a big wooden table, and there's always Christmas lights, no matter what day of the year it is. There's Christmas lights hanging in the ceiling, turning that, glowing and giving the kitchen a real party feel. So listening to this song here tonight makes me feel as if I'm in John's kitchen, and these guys are ripping one up. So, where you go.
Christmas Eve, babe. An old man said to me, won't see another one. And then he sang a song, the rare old Mountain Dew. I turned my face away and dreamed about you. They got cars, big as cars, they got rumors of gold, but the windows are green, so nice when they old. When you first took my hand on a cold Christmas Eve, you promised me Broadway was waiting for me. Your head said,
Pretty queen of New York City, when the Methodist played and they howled out for more. Sinatra was swinging, all the drums they were singing. We kissed on the corner and danced through the night. And the boys in the NYPD choir were singing Galway Bay, and the bells were ringing out for Christmas Day.
you're a tramp.
You're a tired old vampire there, almost dead, I'm sleeping in bed.
You tosser, you loser, you cheap, lousy loser. When Christmas is past, I forgot it's our love.
And the boys in the NYPD choir still singing Galway Bay,
And
the bells were ringing out for Christmas Day. Could have been someone.
well, so could anyone. You took my dreams from me when I first found you.
I kept them with me, babe. And put them with my own. Can I make it all alone? I build my dreams around. And the boys in the NYPD choir still singing Galway Bay, and the bells were ringing out for Christmas Day.
And the bells were ringing out for Christmas Day.
Go on, everybody. Come on back and take a bow. Come on out here. So, I hope you enjoyed it as much as me. So we spend most of this holiday season on the road, which means that our family is you, and or it is from now on anyway. And whoever we bring with us on the bus. We have a bus family, and like most families at this time of year, we have our traditions. And one of our traditions at Christmas time is that John and I sing a song together. And how it works is John, we've been doing this, how long have we been doing this? Maybe a decade or so, on and off. Yeah. And John writes that. We write it together, but that means John I suggest lines and he turns them down. That's what happens. That doesn't rhyme, he says. It's true, don't say it's not true. It's true.
It's true, they don't rhyme.
Well, anyway, this year I'm very proud because this year I think for the first time ever. Oh, come on, it is so. You are so mean to me. This year, for the first time ever, I got a line in the song. Yeah.
How will they know when it comes out?
Oh, they'll know when it comes out.
You ready?
I'm ready, yeah. Christmas comes but once a year, when children look to the skies for a glimpse of Santa and his reindeer. But they don't realize that grown-ups think about other things, like politics, fire, and drought.
And all the craziness Christmas brings
That leave us in no doubt. It's the most wonderful time of the year.
those Volkswagen weasels,
Self-fraudulent diesel.
shed crocodile tears.
It's the most wonderful time of the year. It's the most transgender season, I swear. Brave Caitlyn Jenner goes to alto from tenor.
And gets a nice pair.
Johnny! It's the most transgender season, I swear. Doctors all tell you that hot dog will kill you, and bacon's a thing to be feared.
David Suzuki is going kinda kooky.
Voltaire just shaved off his beard. It's the most wonderful season I know. Justin says, now don't you worry, pot is fun, it's true. Have a toke, all ye good folk, I've got some here for you. Maybe just to prove my point, before we pass that bill,
I'll get Mum to pass out joints.
right on Parliament Hill. Oh yeah, right on Parliament Hill.
Back in Nova Scotia,
It's a job to stay alive. Endless smartphone yackers taking selfies as they drive. So if you're Halifax bound, beware the tweeting rube.
some texting teen will run you down.
And post it on YouTube. Oh yeah, you'll post it on YouTube.
Elizabeth May's lonely seat has been won now.
She sashays at a party for one now.
Kinda sad.
She'll be dancing along in her festive green thong as she stares at Justin's hair all night long. Here comes Duffy down on Senator Lane. Here comes Mikey driving us insane. He won't ever make amends for all the things he's done.
It's a tale that never ends.
Sit back and watch the fun. Oh yeah, sit back and watch the fun. Johnny, your turn.
That Tory renovator, he created quite a stink.
What did he do?
He peed into a coffee cup and left it in the sink.
When the story hit the news, Lordy, what a mess. Lends a whole new meaning to linking it to the press. Oh yeah, linking it to the press. It came upon the hill, my friend, the winds of change they blew. Full half the ministry
singing home on the range. We're walking in a liberal wonderland. Sussex Drive needs a dusting. It's a dive, grumbles Justin.
Maybe I'm being petty, but the house, he's just not ready.
So we'll try the cottage for a while.
Johnny!
South of the border, it's just awful. Donald Trump is dissing half the world.
That thing upon his head, it just ain't lawful.
His hair is scaring all the boys and girls. Never fear, Google's here now. Get in gear, let them steer now.
We'll cruise to the bars in self-driving cars.
Riding in a liberal wonderland. So have no fear, Trudeau is here. We're walking in a liberal wonderland.
We'll face unafraid the brownies he's made.
We're walking in a liberal wonderland. Oh yeah, walking in a liberal wonderland. Oh yeah.
John, cheer, come on out. Pardon? It is a great line. I thought so too. Perhaps the best line in the song. What? It was the best line, yeah.
Wow, that's hurtful.
Suck it up, piano guy. He's gonna play the piano for you now. He's gonna play a piece, two pieces, a medley of two pieces off his brand new best of album called, what's it called now?
The piano collection.
The Piano Collection. So, you'll know the songs. Anybody know what from the piano collection, does anybody know what those pieces were? O Come Emmanuel and Lo How a Rose Ere Blooms, that's right. Yeah. Do you win a prize? I don't know, does he win a prize? Okay, what's your name? Ron? Yeah? Your name is John, and what do you say? Jess Milton, come here. She's yelling at me from the... Come here. John, meet Jess. She'll be at that table, hey, on the concourse. And you'll give John a prize? Yeah, don't mess with him. He does deserve, well, apparently. Yeah, whatever. That's the respect I get here. Yeah, whatever. Remember when we were in Halifax and they started demanding prizes? I thought we were doing a pretty good show. Apparently they didn't. Yeah, give me something else. No, you were standing there. What do you want to say? It is a long walk. Well, I've been doing it all night.
I was going to say, nothing. I was going to say, we'll give him John CD.
We'll give him John CD. Okay, excellent. Yeah, good choice. The 1950s was probably the heyday of the Christmas card. There were actually Christmas card salesmen who went door to door back then with catalogs under their arms. Post office had to hire extra staff to get through the Christmas season then. Busy neighborhoods, they would assign 2 carriers to each route. When Morley was a teenager, her parents had hanged their cards like lines of laundry around the living room. In bumper years, they would slip surplus cards over the slats of the louvered kitchen doors. Morley would take them down a handful at a time and lie on the couch and read all of them. Those cards were, in an odd way, a precursor to the internet. If not a world wide web, a web of everybody that you knew, a parade of family and friends that popped through the mailbox and marched around the living room. It was the perfect holiday gathering. Everybody was there and you didn't have to clean up. Christmas cards have fallen out of favor in these Facebook days. Unlike her mother, Morley doesn't need a little leather-bound book with columns so she can tick off the cards she has sent and received. Morley's Christmas card list is counted in tens rather than hundreds. Even then, getting them done is not an insignificant chore. Every year, right around now, she reserves an evening for the writing and the addressing. Once she gets down to it, it's not an unpleasant night. She has her own rules. She'd never use a picture of her family on the front. She buys her cards from a charity where the purchase will do good. And she has never ever included one of those Christmas letters. No matter how well everyone was doing. Until this year. This year, Morley broke all her rules. This year, she not only featured a picture of Dave on the front, she enclosed a 2-page Christmas letter. The long and sorry tale explaining why no one received a card from her last year. It's not that I forgot you, her letter began. The story begins on a blustery night last December. A night when hunkering down with a mug of tea and a pile of cards seemed like the perfectly cozy idea. It's good to get that done, she said to Dave when she crawled into bed. I wrote a little more than most years. Next morning, those cards were waiting by the front door. all addressed and ready to go. All he needed was stamps. I'll do that, said Dave. I can go to the post office at lunch. Morley shook her head. Dave insisted. It's no trouble, he said, and he scooped up the cards and he tucked them in his backpack. It was against her better instincts to let him do that. But he really didn't give her a second choice. It would have been ungrateful, a little insulting to keep protesting. The day had fallen. He was aware of how reluctant Morley had been to give those cards to him, and he was aware of how he had dug his heels in when he took them. So he was feeling pretty good about himself as he rounded the corner. At noon, he headed over to Kenny's Cafe for lunch. He had decided that he was going to treat himself to a plate of dumplings along with his regular bowl of noodle soup. You want to celebrate the small triumphs. There are more of them. As he sat at the last seat at the counter, waiting for the dumplings, he glanced at his watch. He'd make it quick. He had errands to run before he returned to the store. The first was to go to the post office for stamps. The world shrieked to a stop. When Kenny came out of the kitchen with the dumplings, Dave's stool was still spinning. Dave was around the corner and up the street, staring at the little red mailbox the way a tourist stares at those red-jacketed, bear-skinned guards at Buckingham Palace. Tentatively, like a tourist poking a guard, Dave reached out, pulled open the drawer, and peered in. A mailbox drawer is a marvel of engineering. Designed so you can insert a surprisingly large package, but just try to reach in and remove a small pack of envelopes. It is, first, impossible, and pretty soon after that, painful. No matter how he tried, it was painfully clear to Dave he was not going to get his arm down there. As he pondered his next move, he spotted 3 boys bumping down the street towards him. They were 9, maybe 10 years old. Perhaps if he took the smallest of them, held him by his ankles, he could lower him into the box. Even Dave knew that was a ridiculous idea. You can't have something simultaneously in and out of those boxes. Getting the kid in the mailbox would only work if he could fit him in the tray and dump him in. Dave leaned in and read the notice by the handle. The mail wouldn't be collected until 6 p.m. At least he had time on his side. Stay calm, he said to the mailbox. Everybody should have a friend like Itch Kerr. Guy you can turn to when you have a problem. Itch is a friend from the old days. A band member might have a dispute over rent or a visa or lost luggage. Whatever the situation, Itch always had a solution. That's what Itch did. Itch solved problems. It had been a while since Dave had had a problem of this magnitude, so it took him a while to find Itch's number. Richard, he said, I need you. Bring your keys. One of these might work, said Itch, throwing the keys on the counter. They were at the record store. Dave picked up the tiny ring of keys and said, will you come with me? And Itch's hands floated off the counter, and he held them at his shoulders, palms forward, as if he was about to be arrested. No way, said Itch. Section 23 of the Canada Post Act, man. Canada Post is an agent of Her Majesty the Queen. I don't mess with the Queen. Oh, come on, said Dave. Section 48, said Itch. Any person who opens a receptacle authorized for the purpose of posting mail, that be your mailbox, that person guilty of an indictable offense. Dave said, Itch, I'm not going to take anything that's not mine. Itch said, you can have the keys, but you can't have me. And he scooped them off the counter and held them up. As long as you forget where you got them. There were 10 keys on the ring. The first one slid in perfectly, but it wouldn't turn. The second one didn't fit. Miraculously, the mailbox popped open with key 7. Dave felt a wave of relief. He peered up and then down the street, and then he peered in. There was a pile of letters on the floor of the box, not a big pile, but enough that he couldn't see any of Morley's cards. And so he knelt down. He was trying to work fast. He was trying to stay out of view. He found the first card and he dropped it in his backpack. And that is when he heard the burst of a police siren. With his head more or less in the box, it was hard to tell if the cop car was coming toward him. He heard a second burst of siren. The car was rounding the corner. He had a surge of adrenaline. He had to get out of sight. Exactly. He lunged into the mailbox. He scrambled to draw his legs in behind him. In the nick of time, he pulled the door shut. As he sat there with his knees drawn up to his chest, he heard the police car whiz by. He felt a second wave of relief, and then the first tingle of anxiety. The other sound he heard, as the cops shot by, that little click. Was that the door? Now you might think he would have panicked. He didn't panic. It was actually cozy in there, sitting on a little pile of letters, and he had his cell phone with him anyway. So instead of panic, he was struck by the ridiculousness of the moment. Why did these things keep happening to him? Just once. Couldn't he be the hero? And that's when he heard footsteps drawing close. And the post box lid opened. As it did, the tray inside, where he was sitting, pulled up, catching him under his ear. "Hey," he said. But he clapped his hand over his mouth as he said it. Nothing good would come from someone realizing there was a grown man hiding in the mailbox. As the tray crashed shut, an envelope fluttered down and landed between his knees. Whoever had been and gone. More footsteps, and more voices this time. A mother and her child. It sounded like the mother was lifting the child up so she could put the letter in the box. Dave leaned away from the tray as it rose. Another envelope fluttered to his feet. He picked it up. It was addressed to the North Pole. "Make sure it's gone in," said the mother. Before Dave could move, the tray opened again, clipping him on the chin this time. Then it dropped and raised again, and then again, and then again. The kid kept checking while Dave bobbed and weaved. Finally, he reached up and pushed the door shut. The child said, "We broke it." He heard the blessed sound of footsteps scurrying away. The next 15 minutes were quiet. Dave pulled out his cell phone, and he called Itch. He was careful to whisper. "I am not going to jail," said Itch, "because you forgot to mail your wife's Christmas cards. You're talking about an indictable offense. I'm talking plausible deniability." The phone went dead. Who else could he call? Morley was out of the question. Sam was possible. But what kind of a father would he be if he made his son an accessory to a crime? He was distracted by a new sound. Footsteps, yes, but slow, tentative footsteps, and each footstep followed by an odd metallic scrape. Dave reached up, ready for the tray to rise. When it began, he used one hand to slow the lid and the other to snatch the letter before the door was fully open. The voice of an elderly man said something Dave couldn't make out. Dave dropped his voice by an octave. He said, "You have just used a Canada Post automatic vacuum box." "Your letter is already on its way. Merry Christmas, au revoir." There was an uncomfortable pause, and then the old man said, "Au revoir." Dave said, "Would you like to complete a customer satisfaction survey?" But the old man was gone. Dave turned back to his phone and was startled when the tray raised again. This time, when the metal drawer fell back down, the remains of a half-eaten hot dog fell into his lap. "Hey!" yelled Dave, suddenly incensed. The indignity of what just happened outweighed his discretion. He began banging on the walls of the box. He took the hot dog and placed it in the tray and shoved it back up. He heard it plop on the sidewalk. There was a moment of dead silence. Then he heard the sound of someone running away. "I took your picture," yelled Dave. "I am the post office. I know where you live." Dave. Someone was whispering his name. "Dave? Emile? Is that you, Emile?" Emile is a neighborhood fixture. Until a few years ago, Emile used to sleep in the stairwell next door to the Heart of Christ Religious Supplies and Fax Services, just across the street from Dave's record store. Before bed, he would use his universal remote control to watch whatever television show he wanted on the TV in the electric store down the street. Most often lost to the world and too agitated to communicate, Emile is capable of moments of lucidity. "Emile, how did you know it was me?" "You're the only person I know crazy enough to get into a mailbox, Dave." "Emile, I need your help." Dave had stuck his fingers out of the mailbox slot. He was holding Itch's keys. He was waving them around. He felt Emile's hand touch his. He felt Emile take the keys. Dave said, "Emile, use the key and open the door. It's the 7th key." Emile said, "Oh, I couldn't do that, Dave. That would be tampering with the Queen's mail. That's an indictable offense." "Emile," said Dave. But Emile was gone, and so were his keys. A few minutes later, the slot opened again and a paper bag dropped in. Dave opened it. A grilled cheese sandwich and the keys. It was nearly 5. The pace of visitors had slowed. Dave had resigned himself to being in the box until the mail was picked up at 6. He turned on the flashlight on his phone. The phone was tucked under his chin. He was sorting through the letters one by one. He'd been there long enough to have worked out a pretty good routine. One hand up to stop the tray from coming down, so the occasional customer had to slide their letters through the slot. The other hand sorted. Every time he found one of Morley's, he dropped it into the little pile between his knees. From across the street, the light seeping through the cracks gave the mailbox an eerie glow. Inside, the idea of all the little notes was making Dave a little teary. there was an astounding variety to go through. He'd seen a fat one addressed to Paris, the envelope sealed with a Christmas tree sticker, a card to the Czech Republic, and one to India, another to Morley, a small red envelope going to England, a lot to the United States, a lot more for Canada, another of Morley's, and a second in a child's printing addressed to the North Pole. It was affecting. All of them presumably saying the same thing. The one thing that is so hard for us to say in person, but that everyone says at the bottom of a letter: love. Love me, love you, love Dave, love Stuart. It was 6:20 when the big red and white Canada Post truck glided out of the traffic and slowed beside the box. The lights on the storefronts had come on, twinkling over the snowy sidewalks and into the street. The lights in the restaurants, too, and in the crowded bars. It was funny, thought Alf Moore. It was both the darkest and lightest time of the year all at the same time. Everyone walking down the street, all twinkling like they were part of some massive Christmas snow globe. Alf, a 40-year postal veteran, slipped the truck against the curb beside the mailbox and reached over and slid the sidewalk side door open. The truck asked a lot of him at this time of year. Driving it was hard. It was difficult to keep warm in there. But all the parcels and cards had to be delivered before Christmas, and there was just not another time of the year when Alf felt more important. The snowplow was coming down the other side of the street. Alf gave it a wave. Same sort of work, really, moving stuff around. He had his key in his right hand and his canvas bag in his left, and he bent down to open the box. After 40 years, Alf wasn't surprised by much. But when he opened the door, he jumped backwards. When he tells this story and he comes to this part, he always said, it scared the bejesus out of him to see a guy sitting in one of your mailboxes. You just don't expect that. Even at Christmas. Dave looked up at him sternly and said, you're late. I'm late? We're conducting random checks throughout the city. You're 20 minutes late. And then he held out his hand. Get me out of here, he said. We might be able to overlook this. There was a sudden flash. The camera on Alf's cell phone. When Dave's eyes had cleared and he could see again, Alf was shaking his head. Mister, said Alf, you're gonna have to do better than that. That's the picture on the front of Morley's card this year. The one Alf took a day jammed in the mailbox. Morley met Alf at the police station where she had gone to pick Dave up. The sergeant took her back to the cells when he got Dave, so she saw him sitting all alone on the little bench holding his head in his hands. She was surprised he took her back there like that, but it was Christmas after all, and she asked, and the sergeant shrugged and said, well, why not? It looks to me as if you've got enough problems. They let him go, but they wouldn't give her the cards. They don't belong to you, the sergeant explained. They belong to the Queen the moment you put them in the box. They're hers until they're delivered. Alf said if there's a return address, they'll eventually make it back to you. And they did, but not until February. Which is why no one received a card from Morley last year. And all that as explained in this year's Christmas letter, pretty much the way I have just told you. As for Dave and his indictable offense, Dave had to perform 25 hours of community service. He chose a hostel not far from his store. Turned out to be the very hostel where Emil has been sleeping these chilly nights. Emil greeted Dave with great warmth the first night he was there. He came right up to him behind the counter where he was cooking grilled cheese sandwiches, patted him on the shoulder, looked him right in the eye and said, "Not surprised to see you here, Dave." Not at all. Thank you very much, everyone. Sadly, we have come to the part of the show where it's time for us to say farewell. Before we do that, I want to one more time thank you guys for getting us down here. We'll be here next year. I'd love to see you all again. I know that you want to join me in being on stage with me tonight. Dennis Penrith on the bass, everybody. John Sheard on the piano. Bill Churchill, Geraldine Hall, and Andrew Gale, along. So here we go. We're not going to leave you with the lurch. We're going to sing one more song before we get out of here. It's a song it's fairly new to the Christmas canon. It's 45 years old. It's not that new, but written by John Lennon, and he wrote it during the Vietnam War. It was a protest song, a call for peace, and I just thought that it felt right this year, especially this week. I think it's important to come together and work on time to be our best selves. So I'm going to invite you to raise your voice in song and join us. You'll know the chorus anyway. I'm going to get Geraldine to start us. Dennis, you'll sing one this time. Johnny, you will. The boys will sing. Geraldine, you get us all going. Here we go.
So this is Christmas. What have you done? Another year over, and a new one just begun. And so this is Christmas. We hope you had fun. The near and dear one, the old and the young. A Merry Christmas
And a Happy New Year.
and a Happy New Year.
Let's hope it's a good one.
Let's hope it's a good one.
Without any fear. Hold on, now take us off here. A couple other people I want to thank. Two people who worked hard all day long to make this old arena feel like a living room. I'm talking about Lucas Simonetto, our lighting designer, who ran the lights tonight. Bill Herald, who did the sound. He did a great job. All the people here at the Scotiabank Center who welcomed us and I guess began work late last night to get the boards down and all that. Thank you to them. They were fantastic work. To Jess Melton, who running around like a crazy person since 7 o'clock this morning. Come on out, take a bow, Jeff. You just come out here. I know she hates this, but you just do that. And also, thanks to Layla, who did such a great job up here recording. You were great, Layla. I'm proud of you. You did such a nice job. And I was going to thank you guys one more time here, but I really don't think you've done anything yet to deserve thanks. But you're going to now. We're going to do the song one more time, and you'll join in and sing. So here we go. Get us one again.
So this is Christmas, and what have we done? Another year over, and a new one just begun. And so this is Christmas, we hope you had fun. The near and the dear ones, the old and the young. A very Merry Christmas
Happy New Year.
and a Happy New Year.
Let's hope it's a good one.
So it's a good one,
Without any fear.
without any fear.
Again, again.
A very Merry Let's hope it's a good one.
Last time, everybody. Have a very Merry Another time. And a very Merry
Let's hope it's a good one. Without any fear.
Can't finish, everyone.
Let's hope it's a good one.
We'll see you next year. No one's ever done that before. I won't forget that.